Hey everyone, welcome. Over the next few weeks, multiple systems will move across the Gulf, southern US, and get pretty close to the Caribbean. This is all part of a larger system pulling in moisture from Central America and the Pacific. Meanwhile, up north, systems coming from Western Canada and the Pacific Northwest are combining with that moisture, creating a strong setup. What makes this pattern interesting is how it's setting up for an Arctic air surge that could bring colder weather all the way down to the Caribbean. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Right now, we're seeing moisture from the Pacific and Central America moving northward. This stream of moisture is the fuel for the systems heading south. And once they combine with the cold air coming from the north, that's when we'll see colder temperatures pushing southward. This interaction between the colder Arctic air and tropical moisture is creating an active and dynamic pattern that could bring cooler weather closer to the Caribbean than usual. For today, there's a small system affecting parts of the southeastern U.S. This system is moving quickly and bringing rain to places like Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, and Alabama. It's not going to last long, but it's a signal that we're in for a very active period. To the north, areas like Ontario and Quebec are still dealing with lake effect snow, and the Great Lakes in New England are seeing occasional snow showers. There's also a larger system sitting just off the coast of Canada, spinning in the Atlantic and affecting weather there. In the Caribbean, there's a weak front near Puerto Rico, Antigua, and St. Kitts. While it's not bringing much rain, it's allowing moisture to flow northward from the Pacific. This moisture is helping to feed future systems that will move into the Gulf and the southern U.S. over the next few weeks. As we move later into the week, the big front I've been tracking will stretch from Bermuda all the way down through the northern Caribbean. Behind this front, we'll get a brief spell of cooler air, but it won't last long. By the weekend, we'll see a new surge of moisture moving in from the south, and this moisture, combined with the energy from the north, will set up a bigger front that will bring colder weather to many parts of the U.S. It'll also bring snow to areas further north with rain and cooler air moving into parts of the Caribbean. So looking ahead to next week, we'll see more of the same. Cold air surging down, moisture moving in from the south, and more systems developing. The Caribbean could see some rain as these fronts push closer to the region, with places like Jamaica and the Cayman Islands seeing higher chances of rain next week. For today, places like St. Lucia, Barbados, and Dominica might get a few passing showers, but they won't be heavy. As we move into midweek, moisture will build in the Gulf, and that could bring some light rain to areas like the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. Overall, though, rainfall will be minimal. Central America will continue to see light rain chances in places like Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama, but it won't be anything widespread. Further south, northern Venezuela and Colombia should stay mostly dry, though coastal showers can't be ruled out. As for the seas, the next few days will bring choppy conditions in the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, and the Atlantic. By the weekend, the seas in the Atlantic are going to build even more, especially as the next front moves in, along with the cold. We're also looking at some potentially powerful snowstorms. The models are showing that significant snow could affect not just the Northeast, but also the Southeast, bringing winter weather much further south than usual. Recently, the GFFs and European models have started to align, hinting at the development of major snowstorms along the East Coast. While we're still some time out from these storms, it's possible we could see multiple snow events in the next 2 weeks. So if you love snow, it might be your time to shine. Before diving into details, I want to ask you something. Do you find it helpful when I include the Climate Prediction Center's outlooks for the next few weeks? These include the 6, 10-day, 8, 14-day, and monthly outlooks. If they're helpful, I'll continue including them. But if not, let me know and I'll focus on other information. Your feedback is really important for me to tailor this content to what you want. Now, let's talk about the cold. The CPC's latest 6, 10-day temperature outlook is calling for a serious cold snap around January 18, 22nd, which could be one of the most extreme cold spells we've seen in a while. In fact, it could be a polar vortex event, especially for parts of the north central U.S. with temperatures well below average. The cold will gradually spread eastward by January 20th, affecting the Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. It's a huge shift from the warmer patterns we've seen recently, and it could bring some of the coldest temperatures in years. When you combine the cold with an uptick in precipitation, this creates an ideal setup for snowstorms. The CPC is also forecasting above average precipitation in the coming weeks, and this is where things get interesting. We could see snowstorms developing over the Gulf region, with some of them tracking up the East Coast, potentially bringing snow to areas that don't usually get much. If the cold air sticks around, this could set the stage for some serious snowfalls across the southeast and mid-Atlantic. Looking at the 14-day outlook covering January 2026, the cold will continue to spread eastward. By January 20th, much of the east, including the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes, will experience some of the coldest conditions. Meanwhile, the west will remain relatively warmer. Precipitation in the Gulf could fuel snowstorms that move up the East Coast, which could bring heavy snow to coastal areas. Speaking of snow, there's a chance that we could see a major snowstorm hit the southeast and mid-Atlantic from January 19th, 22nd. Both the GFS and European models are showing signs of this, and if it pans out, areas from Texas to the Carolinas could experience significant snowfalls. It's still a bit early to say for sure, but the conditions are lining up for what could be a very exciting storm for snow lovers. As we look even further ahead, the CPC's 3-4 week outlook for January 25th to February 7th shows that the cold will likely continue in the east, especially in the southeast. The west, however, looks to stay warmer with dry conditions. So for the second half of January and into early February, the east might remain the cold spot. A major factor to watch here is whether the storm trends northward. This is something that happens fairly often with storms like this. And if it does, we'll likely see the storm move further up the coast. As we track the models, you'll notice they tend to shift north as time goes on. It's a pattern we've seen before, and it's something we can reasonably expect. So while things are still up in the air, it's looking like there's a strong chance of this storm moving in that direction. We're not just guessing. We have data that backs this up. So it's not a complete shot in the dark. What we can say for sure is that we'll likely see some development in the Gulf, and it's very possible the system will track toward the southeast coast. The question is, will it stay offshore or move onshore? We'll have to keep an eye on that as the details unfold. By Thursday, January 23rd, I think we'll start to see the situation come into focus. The Gulf will likely get more active, and that's when we could see some snow reach places like the Smoky Mountains. Looking ahead to Sunday, January 26th, the storm could really ramp up. Cold air from Canada will dive south, interacting with the developing system, which could bring snow to the southeast and mid-Atlantic. We're talking about classic setup here with cold air moving in, and we could end up with significant snow, especially in places like the Carolinas and the southern mid-Atlantic. It's still early, but things are looking promising. Now, let's talk about the models. The European and GFS models are both showing similar trends, but there are a few differences. The European model predicts a strong storm moving through the southeast with snow stretching up the coast, while the GFS model is showing a similar track, but with different timing and intensity. Both models agree that snow will be a major factor for the southeast, but we'll have to wait a little longer to fine-tune the details. When we look at the precipitation forecast, both models are showing a storm track moving from the Gulf to the southeast and possibly up the coast. This suggests that multiple snow events could be in store for the southeast as long as the cold air sticks around. But we still need to figure out how much snow will fall, where it'll happen, and exactly when. Right now, the southeast and mid-Atlantic seem to be the areas to watch. What about snow totals? Well, if you're in the southeast, you might want to prepare for some significant snowfall. We're talking about 10 inches or more for Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. The Carolinas could see up to 15, 20 inches, and the southern mid-Atlantic might even get close to 2 feet. These numbers could change as the forecast solidifies, but it's definitely worth paying attention to as the storm develops. Looking at temperatures, the European model is showing a major Arctic blast coming around January 19th, bringing temperatures 30, 40 degrees below normal. That's pretty extreme, especially for areas that don't usually get that kind of cold. So the cold air will move across the east, and it's likely to stick around for a while. However, after January 25th, things will start to warm up with more mild temperatures pushing in. But don't expect the cold to disappear entirely. We're still looking at below normal temperatures even after that. The GFS model, meanwhile, isn't predicting as extreme cold. While it still expects below normal temperatures, the cold isn't as intense as what the European model is showing. That's why I'm a little skeptical about the extreme cold in the European model, as it tends to overdo these big temperature drops. It's still important to pay attention to, but it's probably more realistic to expect temperatures like what the GF is showing, which are still below normal, but not quite as extreme. I'm really excited to see how this all plays out in the next few weeks. There's a lot of potential for snow, especially in the southeast and mid-Atlantic, and we might even see a couple of storms for the northeast too. But we're not there yet, so we'll need to continue tracking things as we get closer. Be sure to stay tuned for updates. I'll be keeping you all posted as the storm develops, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm looking forward to tracking these storms with all of you.